I really, really, really like the show adaptation of The Last of Us. We've kind of talked about it a little bit, and we're doing a tier list about faithful adaptations of things, which I believe The Last of Us is, for the most part, pretty faithful. The story of the video game is really, really beautiful, and I think the one thing I regret is that...
Beautiful is one word, but, like, it's...
hard, intense, emotional.
It's a work of art, I'll say that. It's a work of art. It's an impressive work of art, yes. Beautiful is a strong word.
The one thing that I kind of feel bad for people who are just watching the show and enjoying it, they probably are not going to go and play the game. And the game itself is a cinematic experience. And I think part of the game are these highs and lows, these intense boss battles, you know, where you're fighting the clickers, the zombies, things are happening. And then it slows down and you get a breather where, you know, you play guitar in an auditorium in the game. You have the option to just like kind of hang out for a second. And these slower moments, because the TV show is a TV show and they got to get the plot rolling, it doesn't hit as hard. It's an action show. It's an action, you know, thriller zombie show, and that's how people see it. But the game is so much more than that. I don't know. How do you feel? The second season is out now, and already the buzzards are flocking and people are picking stuff apart.
I think I held my tongue a lot in season 1, where all I could give it was praise, because this is an adaptation. HBO is making it. We're talking Chernobyl and Game of Thrones level budgets of, like, you're making with Pedro Pascal is arguably like one of the biggest draws on the planet. Like, not like a top television actor. We're talking like top 5 actor on the planet right now. Like, I don't think I'm being exaggerative.
Gladiator film, like he's in blockbuster films.
He's a huge fucking star. He's a very, very busy guy. And this is great for gaming. This is great for narrative in gaming. This is arguably the greatest video game adaptation of all time, and that's a big deal that should be celebrated. As a gamer who, like, hasn't been taken seriously for a long time, we've talking about anime all day, and, like, gaming community is somewhat similar, where it's like doesn't really have the same respect as, say, the film industry and the television industry.
Sure.
But I think we need to address the elephant in the room, where it's how much are we going to pander to the mainstream TV and film people on, like, what The Last of Us is without realizing, you know, like, the articles coming out now of people shocked by the spoilers of, sorry, spoilers, Joel fucking dies at the beginning of Last of Us Part 2, and the fact that everyone's like, oh my God, they killed, it's like, how do you not know that already? This was a huge story in 2019 when the game came out, and it's disrespectful towards the gaming community to act like this is some big revelatory type fucking thing. And like, we have to pretend that, like, oh yeah, and it's like Last of Us 2 was controversial enough as is, and now we're just going to recycle the same stuff for the movie people and the TV people to catch up.
I don't feel that way, because I think back to when I was playing Last of Us 2 during quarantine. First game I ever streamed was the first Last of Us, and I was very attached to it.
Yeah.
And when that part of the story hits in Last of Us 2, when your fucking horse dies, Joel dies, like you lose so much as Ellie, it hits. It really does. And I think for viewers of the TV show, it hits. And, you know, they also love Pedro Pascal, the actor.
Great. Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, I feel so attached, you know?
There's flashbacks coming up, so don't fucking worry. It's like he's still in half the fucking series, I promise.
But that being said, I don't feel the way you feel. I think they're having a different experience. They have a different attachments to the characters. And that's fine. And that's okay, because it's made for television. They made it into a TV show. They have to continue with the storyline. I mean, would you rather they change things? I sure wouldn't.
And obviously, Last of Us 2 had a lot of controversy.
Yeah.
And, like,
we remember when the game came out, everybody was super mad about
the thing, though. It's
female
like,
character.
Well, it's not even. Well, it's a lot of things why people were mad about Last of Us 2, which we can get into that argument.
It's so dated.
It is dated, and yet they're digging it back up. All right, they're beating that Drummond, the Neil Drummond. That was clever.
Nice.
It's fine. But I don't care about, like. Let me just take a little step back. It's just we're reliving everything that we've already relived, and, like, yeah, like, I'm a fucking white straight dude. Like, but Last of Us 2 didn't piss me off. I actually really, really like Last of Us 2. I thought the narrative was maybe a little preachy at times. For me, as someone who's, like, an ally, but also feels like politics have gotten really messy and like was stirring up some things. I'm very curious what that, with certain characters, certain child characters portrayal, how that'll be received in the modern day. That was not my problem with Last of Us 2. I thought it was a little like getting rid of Joel. Here's both my compliment and my insult towards Last of Us 2, and it's more of a compliment. We've had our expectations subverted so many times with Lost and J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson with Episode 8 and yada, 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 yada. Last of Us 2 subverted expectations and actually offended people. Everyone. Like, on every side. You killed the best character. If you're at all, like, not within a certain kind of, ally mindset, you're really going to be challenged by Last of Us 2. You're going to be challenged in that you kind of hate Ellie. You're going to be challenged in that a character that you fucking hate, that you've hated for the last 10 hours, you now are forced to play with. Yeah. That is actually subverting expectations. That's not like, ooh, it's a little twisty and expect. No, This is like forcing you to be uncomfortable, which I respect the hell out of. Politics aside, which I agree with most, but it's a little preachy. But like, really though, like I fucking respect that. And most people, most gamers especially, fail to do so. Yeah. And now we're putting that in the TV and the movie audience, which is going to be tough. Yeah. And I think there's going to be, but we had these debates 3 years ago. The end of the day, for me, Last of Us Part 2 was a 20 to 25 hour experience of tight, excellently executed gameplay, where Last of Us 1 is arguably the best narrative of any video game ever, with 6 hours of gameplay that I beat in 3 nights. I prefer Last of Us 2 as a video game.
I mean, I hear you on a lot of those points.
My angry points.
I had no issues with The Last of Us 2, and it came out, during a time when, there was a lot of, like, political shit, and people were really vocal about stuff
Those
online.
issues are arguably more relevant now than they are then.
Sure. I don't know. I never had an issue with any of that. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. She's gay. Who cares? But I think what I struggled with was...
That's not the controversy, by the way, that she's gay.
What? Was that not the controversy?
I think you gotta play Last of Us 2 again, but yeah.
Last of Us 2 again. I was hurt when Joel died, but it means that the story moves forward. Like, Ellie couldn't have become who she was if Joel were to live, because of the conflict between the two characters at the end of the first game. So what you're saying with the TV show where people are like, oh, my favorite character, whatever, as long as they stick to the story as it was in the video game.
Which they might have strayed from because of the controversy from Part 2.
And also to protect the actors in ways where they might have switched stuff up.
I don't give a fuck about that.
The one thing that
they're making $10 million on the season. I don't care about how the actors are affected.
That I struggled with during the game was Ellie's sort of like immature emotional responses to things. She was very frustrating to play at times. And yes, it's sort of an open world game, quote unquote, but it's not. You're railroaded and you don't really get to make.
I wouldn't call it an open world.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, no.
It's a railroaded game where your choices kind of don't. No matter what you do, the game happens. The things happen. The dominoes fall. And I definitely was frustrated as a player playing Ellie as a character. 2/3 of the way through the game.
That's the point.
Which is the point.
Yes.
So, like, you don't want to do what she's doing, but that is who she's become because of the world, because of what's happened in the past. Then when you play as the other character who you hate and who you've learned to hate through Ellie's eyes, you have these visceral reactions. I think that is beautiful storytelling. Yeah. It's like films that make people uncomfortable and they think it's a bad film.
Right.
You didn't understand the film.
It's like a Kubrick film that like is hated and then becomes, again, Last of Us 2 subverted expectations for some staunch fan bases that like we're used to expectations being subverted, but not truly.
But I would
say actually was
at the time,
it was a challenge.
At the time, a big challenge.
Yeah.
Looking back now, I think it is highly applauded.
Yeah.
I think you would be pressed to find people who are as vocal as they were back then.
If you're a hardcore video gamer who plays on hard mode because you like to be challenged and you were offended by The Last of Us 2's narrative, I think you're missing the point.
Fake gamer.
No, but honestly, and that was the effort, and I think it succeeded.
And beyond that, gotta just talk about the game itself, the mechanics of the game. Crafting bombs and weapons, the shooting, the creatures. Like, it is such a magnificent world that they have created, and mechanic-wise and combat-wise, you could sneak through that whole game.
Yeah.
Like you could not kill people, you know, during those, not the cutscenes and stuff, but like during the actual gameplay.
Right.
It's just a really well-crafted game. And again, my only real thing to say about this new season is that I wish people will experience the game. Like I wish they will go back
and that's kind of
play the game.
To me,